What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Priscilla. I'm a Nigerian women's wear designer based in the UK. Recently I put up a poll on the community section of my YouTube channel, which is where I get to give you guys updates and give you the opportunity to vote on which tutorial comes next on the channel. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe so you can take part in those type of activities. In that poll, I suggested topics that I noticed you guys were asking a lot of questions about, and one of them was how to fix a sleeve into the armhole of a jacket, a top, a dress, so on and so forth. Essentially just putting that sleeve into a armhole. There are two methods that I use. There is fixing the sleeve on a flat and fixing the sleeve on a round. I'm going to explain later on in this tutorial, but those are the two areas I'm going to be covering today. I'm going to be showing you how to fix a sleeve into an armhole in two ways. If you want to see how I do this, make sure to keep on watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Comment all of your thoughts and ideas down below, and let's get straight into the video. Okay, so the first method I'm going to be working with is fixing on the flat, which is relatively easier to tackle compared to fixing on the round. So fixing on a flat essentially means you have your flat sleeve piece that goes into the arm curve that is only joined along the shoulder. So you join the shoulder up and then you fix this sort of arm area into the armhole of your garment. This is relatively easier to do because you have more control over how to distribute the ease, especially around the top of the arm. I think this is something that we didn't really understand a lot in fashion school. It was when I did internships and did sewing classes I realized that okay, this was a little bit easier to tackle and easier to deal with in terms of fixing a sleeve on a flat. For this demonstration, I have cut out a front, back and pair of sleeves. This I cut out using my basic bodice and sleeve patterns, which I've done in previous tutorials. The front usually has a deeper arm curve compared to the back, which is a lot more shallow. I have my sleeve pair here. Something I just have to say about the sleeve pattern I've done in the past is the sleeve head is really high, so there is a lot of ease to fix into the bodice tutorial that I have on my channel, so just keep that in mind. So the first thing I'll be doing for method 1 is I'm going to be joining the shoulders together, the left and the right shoulders front to back. I like to pin things first before I sew because I find that the seam doesn't move as much as I travel from that spot to my machine. So I've gone ahead and I've stitched up the shoulder seams. I have pressed them open like so, and I'm going to be starting with one side for the first method and do the other method on the other side of the sleeve. So I'm going to take my sleeve and I'm going to pin across the sleeve curve into the armhole. Just be sure to check that the front of the sleeve matches the front of your garment, because if they don't, the sleeve would be pointing in a wrong direction. So I like to start by pinning the shoulder point of the bodice or your garment to the shoulder point of your sleeve, and then I start with the bottom edge either on the front or on the back, and then I sort of like move the ease across, especially on the top end or the sleeve head. I arrange the ease in such a way that when you stretch both the sleeve curve and the arm curve, they will meet, but you sort of have to stretch them so they meet like so. So once I've put enough pins and I'm happy with the distribution of the ease on the sleeve head, I'm going to go ahead and stitch on a flat the sleeve into the armhole for this side. So I'm just going back in to double check to see that the areas where I've placed the ease actually work. I like to stretch it out to see that I know that I can physically sew this together without creating any gatherings or puckerings on this sleeve seam. So I'm just sewing on my normal 1 cm seam allowance, and when I sew sleeves I actually sew very slowly compared to people with more experience, I take my time, and as I sew, I turn the seam in such a way that I have a consistent 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around this curved seam. And because it's not a straight line, you constantly need to turn left and right and just handle your garment in such a way that it's at a pace that is comfortable for you, so that the seam comes out in a clean and nice way. So this is what this seam looks like so far. It looks really good. I think I'm having a good sleeve day, because some days, I swear, it can be so tricky and be so difficult, but it's been good so far. So once you've joined up the sleeve into the armhole like that, we're going to join the side seams of the sleeve and the bodice with one continuous stitch. So you pick up the shoulders like this, and then you align the side edges like so. So I just like to put my pins as usual, pinning up my sleeve side seam, pin up the edge or the seam where you've joined your sleeve to your armhole, match that edge together, and then with one continuous stitch you join up that entire side of the sleeve and the bodice in one go. So when I reach that edge where our sleeve joins our bodice, I like to turn a little bit downwards facing the direction of the bodice, and then continue sewing until I get to the end, remembering to do my back stitch. You can go ahead and give your seam a press. Try and press the seam open so the sleeve on this particular edge just looks nice and relaxed. Thankfully this went well, so we don't have any weird gatherings, because if one area was stretched too much, you would actually see it at this point. So now that we're done with method 1, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do method 2, which is joining the sleeve on the round. The second method is fixing the sleeve on a round, and this essentially means you join up the shoulder and your side seam of your garments, and you join up the side seam of your sleeve. So you essentially have two holes that have to fit together. So this method is a little bit trickier because you are going to be joining two circles of different circumferences. The sleeve itself is usually a little bit bigger compared to the armhole. It depends on what kind of sleeve you're going for. I swear this was the hardest thing to do in uni, and it was like the death of me. I avoided fixing sleeves for as long as I could until I gradually started figuring out how to, you know, put that ease back into the armhole of your garments. A way to do this is to do a basting stitch by hand or on your machine, which is like the longest stitch on your machine, or just do a really loose stitch by hand, and then you pull the ease to make very fine gatherings, and then you ease that into the top of your sleeve head. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I mean by this and how to fix a sleeve into an armhole on the round. For the second sleeve, we're going to be joining it in a slightly different way, but that is a little bit more technical. So first off, you need to join up the side seam of your sleeves, and then join up the side seam of your bodice on the wrong side. So the sewing will happen on the wrong side. So when you turn this inside out, you have a nice clean seam on the outside of your garment. So I'm just going to take this to my machine, and I'm going to sew on my usual 1 centimeter seam allowance, or whatever seam allowance that you decide to work with. I'm going to do that both for my sleeve and my bodice. Press those seams inside out, and then I'm going to come back here and we're going to pin the sleeve into the armhole. Like I said with the first one, just ensure that the sleeve that you're working with corresponds with the side of the garment that you're fixing it into. So left sleeve goes into left armhole, and so on and so forth. So like I did with the first one, I like to start with the bottom edge or the side seam edge, and then just work my way to the top, which is where you usually have your extra or your ease. So once I'm getting to the top, I do this for the front and for the back. I just push the sleeve through the armhole like this, so I don't have the sleeve bothering me when it's time to sew, and I only have the edge of my sleeve and the edge of my arm curve. So as I'm making my way to the top, you gradually will start to see the extra that sits on the sleeve head that you have to fix into that arm curve. And like I said earlier on, a way that you can get rid or control that is to do basting stitch by hand. I actually filmed that, but for some reason my camera just did not decide to give me that footage. So you can do that by hand, or you can do that with the longest stitch on your machine, and then just pull the top thread slightly so you create very fine gatherings that you can slowly sew into the top of or your sleeve head. So I'm just going in now to join both ends of my sleeve, and because it's a round thing, you have to be careful that you're not sewing up any other parts of your garment as you are joining the sleeve into the armhole. You take out your pins as you go along and just stretch ends together so that you don't have any excess when you're done sewing. So this is both sleeves done. Today was a really good sleeve day, I have to say, and they came out really nice and really neat. And I think this is something that if you practice on with time, you would naturally get better at. Practice definitely makes perfect when it comes to fixing sleeves into garments. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope you learned. I hope it made sense. I hope fixing sleeve has become a little less scary for you guys. It takes practice, that's something I'll say. The first couple of times you might not get it perfectly, but the more sleeves you fix in, the more you start to really understand how the whole process works. So the two areas I covered in this video for this sleeve is for just for a normal flat sleeve. It's not for a two-piece sleeve, just so you know that. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you guys do practice any of these methods, make sure to tag me on social media at KimDaveDesigns, or share via email or on Facebook. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. And until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.